Chapter 7. Asteri. Oh, or star, I guess. Stars, My first day of training with Caleb again was when I learned what his idea of less unpleasant was. Oh goody. After which I had my suspicions he might secretly be a complete dolt. Or a sadist. At the very least, our definitions of unpleasant and less unpleasant were vastly different.
Think she'll win this time?
I'm more concerned with how they're considering this training.
I bet they just wanted an excuse to stare into each other's eyes longingly.
Are we having a staring contest?
The only thing I'm longing for is the two of you to shut the hell up. You look like you're struggling a little there, Kale.
Of course he's struggling. I already let him win 2 matches. Ugh! Damn it, he almost got me just then. I was not letting him win this round. What are you guys doing?
It's almost cute you think you'll win this one. Aw, he called her cute.
I love that Vaughn's way of helping Morgan is to just try to get under Caleb's skin.
Shut up, Vaughn!
Birdie, it's been ages. You can do it, Morgan. I wasn't sure how I felt about having cheerleaders for this bizarre match, but I was at least glad more people were rooting for me than for Caleb. Ari, I'm surprised you're letting them get away with this.
Though I have my doubts, I can acknowledge it as training if she has to enhance her strength to best him.
You guys are having an arm wrestling competition? Let's go! Well, he wasn't wrong. It was certainly a novel form of training. Sprung from our previous conversation, and my annoyance at Caleb winning another sparring match this morning. This was, as he put it, a contest of strength and grit. Well, biokinetically enhanced strength anyway. But given the moves he'd already pulled on me in the 2 prior matches, I knew that wasn't all there was to it. This is a fantastic CG. I love everything about it.
So what do I get when I win 3 out of 3?
I threw myself into trying to get his arm down, glaring at him across the makeshift table. I wasn't aware we were betting anything.
Afraid you'll lose.
I'm not going to lose. Keeping my focus on enhancing my strength was difficult, but if I slipped at all, he'd beat me in an instant. I closed my eyes, shutting out the voices of the others and shutting out Caleb's stupid smirking face. Instead, I focused on the psi energy winding down my arm, fortifying the muscles from the inside. There was no way I'd be able to beat Caleb normally, but with psi. My elbow slipped on the mat as Caleb tried to pull my hand closer to his. I resisted, my eyes flashing open as I glared at him. His psi was not only wound into his arm, but most heavily in his wrist. And his shoulder. Clenching my jaw, I followed suit, ramping up the enhancement in those areas. When Caleb tried to turn his palm inward, using the move that got me last time, I resisted it and pulled his hand closer to the mat. He grimaced, pushing back with enough force I almost gave up. Instead, I poured everything I had into one last boost. And finally... Oh! Anything you can do, I can do better. I love it! Girl did it! Woo! A surge of satisfaction rippled through me when I slammed the back of his hand against the mat. I released Caleb's hand, shooting him a grin as the rookies that had gathered around erupted into cheers. My arm will hurt like hell tomorrow. I half expected Caleb to glare at me or say something rude, but he returned the grin as he rotated his wrist.
Not bad.
Not bad? I just beat you.
I beat you twice first.
Hey, I'm a beginner.
Oh? Want a medal because you beat me once?
Do I have to toss you on your rear end to get some praise?
You think you can toss me on my rear? That you can't is half the reason we're doing this, right?
I'm about to try again, damn it!
Come at me any time, little queen. I look forward to it. Is it just me, or is he... flirting?
I whipped my head around, glaring at her.
He does seem to be enjoying her threats more than usual.
Damn, even Ari's on board. Caleb's smiling though, he's not like scandalous or anything, he's just like, maybe. Those two?
I believe it's time to shift focus for a while. But perhaps a quick break is in order first.
I nodded to Birdie and Casey as they passed by on their way out. Now that the excitement was over, Vaughn was shooing everyone else out of the room. Odette shot me a brief smile before she headed out. I'll see you later, Morgan. Bye, Odette. I like you, Odette. Ari watched me stretch my arms before rolling my shoulders a few times.
I'd like to start with working on your shields again today. Unfortunately, I doubt you'll be challenged to many arm wrestling matches out in the field. You making some kind of commentary about my training methods? I believe I was making a comment about the realistic challenges of field work. Depends on the field work. When was the last time you encountered an arm wrestling fanatic in the field? Perhaps on a mission to which I wasn't assigned. We're always assigned to the same missions, Ari. Precisely.
In Caleb's defense, there's a lot about training that doesn't always apply to field work, I think. Unless people usually pull their punches or let their opponent fall gracefully to a cushioned floor. Ooh, dang! She got him with that fall one.
Fair point. Training is...
He cut off at the same time a message notice popped up in my peripheral. A quick glance towards him and Caleb told me they got the same one. I pulled it up to see an urgent briefing request. It was addressed to the entire guard, but there was no subject listed.
It would appear that we must postpone that lesson, Morgan. Something's up. Let's go.
There wasn't even time to shower. Ari and Caleb left the training room at a jog, with me just behind them. We caught up to Vaughn, Odette, and the others on the way. When we arrived at Magnus's office, he wasn't alone. Oh, Mom is here to visit. A woman I had never seen before, but who had an oddly familiar face, was with him. We'd knocked, but I was a little cautious about going in when it felt like we were interrupting. Caleb, who was right behind me, also stopped when he saw who else was in the office.
Don't tell me this is why you interrupted our training.
I glanced back at him, surprised by the acid in his voice. The woman, to her credit, seemed unaffected by his tone.
No, this isn't the reason. Cherise was, in fact, just leaving.
Then why is she still here?
Is it strange for me to come visit my son, Caleb? Her son? Come to think of it, their appearances were similar. But why was Caleb so rude? And even Magnus didn't seem like he'd just been talking to his mother. He also called her by her first name. She was unfazed as she turned to me. A gentle smile graced her face. As a council member, I also don't need a reason to want to meet our new queen rank. Magnus's mother was a council member. The council Caleb hated? That explains his attitude. You must be Morgan Leone. I'm Cherise Ulrich. It's nice to meet you. Likewise. I apologize for not coming to see you sooner. As expected, your guard has already become quite protective of you.
That's...
All right. It's been busy since I joined. I didn't want to air all of Caleb's grievances with the council right now. Not when we were here for a different reason. I would imagine there's been little time to catch your breath these last few weeks. There was quite a push to get you trained as quickly as possible.
A push by your council?
It isn't my council, and despite my years on it, I'm not the ranking member either. Though you're already aware of that. Magnus has told me a great deal about you, Morgan. About your training, your studies before joining our organization. Though some of us believe it is too early to involve you in an assignment, I hope your prior knowledge proves useful to you during this investigation. I'll leave you all to your meeting. It was nice to meet you, Morgan. I hope we have more time to sit and chat for a while. I'd love to hear your impressions of Endgame as a newcomer. Of course. There are definitely some thoughts I'd like to share. Her smile widened slightly before she excused herself and left us there with only awkward silence in her wake. For a moment, it felt almost like all of my unasked questions were tangible in the silence as the others made their way inside. Then Magnus smiled his usual smile and leaned against his desk, flipping a stylus between his fingers like usual. The smile, however, seemed a little strained for him.
Well, that's over with. Why don't we get started? We had a... Where did I put it?
He rummaged on the desk for a moment, checking the drawers, the top, under it. He straightened and looked around as if lost in his own office. Everyone just took their seats and waited.
Ah, here it is.
He picked up a display from the shelf behind his desk.
I don't know when I set it there.
You know what? I had a moment like this, like just yesterday. I put a cup of coffee on a shelf, because I'm like, I'm coming back this way. I'll just grab it on the way back. I could not find that dang cup of coffee, because I never put coffee there. And I'm like, where the heck would I put this? And as Magnus would say.
Anyway.
Slight segue.
I'm afraid there are some disturbing fresh developments to the array and relic situation. We hit on some leads, and the council has decided it's time for the elites to take over. Before we get started, though, Caleb, I need a status update on Morgan's progress.
Do you expect she's improved that much since the last update?
Yes, actually. You've seen the growth curve of her psi manipulation since the very start of her training. She's improving much faster than the children in the academy, as you well know. Much faster than anyone before.
I was? Somehow it didn't feel like it. I mean, Caleb had said I was making good progress, but I still had such a long way to go.
Faster than normal progress doesn't mean she's ready for an assignment.
That wasn't what I asked you. I wanted to know her general status. Have you observed any irregularities?
No, Magnus. You know this.
Even after the incident the other day?
You'd be aware of it if I had. As would I.
Irregularities?
You may not be aware, but F-class Esper sometimes exhibit instabilities in their psi. It's something we've observed in the past.
He glanced at Ari.
Given that psi burst from your initial power surge and the way your abilities spiraled out of control while unconscious, we had concerns about you. You experienced a stressful situation a few days ago. I thought if you would show any instabilities, it would be now.
We haven't observed anything unusual, but that doesn't mean Morgan is ready for an assignment of this magnitude.
I don't disagree. But you heard Cherise. The council has decided.
Why the sudden push?
There is a new report from the Moirai.
The Moirai or Lethe? The atmosphere tensed as soon as he said that, and I gathered this wasn't a good thing.
They say something is coming. Something big.
Although they are right, or Moirai, Lethe, whatever, is right that something big is coming.
Something? That's vague even for the Moirai.
It is. They are struggling to see the future clearly right now.
What? I don't understand what's going on. I gathered it was bad, just from the looks everyone was giving each other, but I didn't know enough about the Moirai or their abilities yet.
Not being able to see the future for the Moirai. They can usually see at least some possibilities. When everything goes dark, it isn't a good sign.
The usual struggle for the Moirai is that they see so much of the future, it's difficult to home in on a specific situation. Rarely is it an issue of not being able to see enough of it. It's only happened a few times before. Often before a major catastrophe.
It's out of my hands, Caleb. Unless you're willing to mount an insurrection over the matter this afternoon. Entertaining as that would be, I fear there are important things to deal with right now.
Sending her out with the amount of training she has is dangerous.
If this situation continues unchecked, it will be dangerous either way, Caleb. No, it already is. The two of you were out for an innocuous afternoon stroll and became involved in an attack. We're now aware of what we believe are multiple shipments of relics coming into the day side of this planet from Delphine. And a suspicious incident in Asteri where a relic was involved.
A rural and isolated complex of 9 domes that strive for self-sufficiency. They stay out of global politics, for the most part, and remain non-aligned, though they have some trade agreements with various places. Asteri is largely agricultural-based, and much of the economy revolves around agricultural trade. They have agreements with Cerna, Delphine, and even the Nomos, a rarity for the domed cities on either side of the planet. The fact that they have rich bioregenerative support systems in place for their environmental systems means they can keep their energy needs low, and they don't often have to deal with the Triad and can focus their trade efforts with Delphine and other cities on the night side instead. Because of its lax regulations and lack of government oversight in many of the domes, Asteri has a small but thriving population of neo-humans and other people who wish to live off the grid, so to speak. Unfortunately, this, combined with their close contact with Delphine, has led to it being used by some groups to smuggle goods in and out of the dayside. Okay, I think we read about Asteri before, but because it seems to be prevalent this time, a refresher was in order.
This situation is worsening. We cannot afford to hold back right now. I'm sorry.
We can't afford for something to happen to her.
Then you'll have to do your job well and keep her safe. Because you'll be breaking into sub-teams, and I decided to pair the 2 of you. You're most familiar with Morgan's Psi abilities, so it makes sense to partner the 2 of you. You'll be leaving immediately to retrieve the relic in Asteri and grasp the situation there. It is the least difficult situation, as Utpul are already at the scene. You won't encounter anything dangerous there.
Wonder if I'll run into Ruben again. Leaving right away?
Correct. And as much as I would like to explain everything, I've been called to the council room for a public statement. You'll all be receiving your mission briefing soon. I'll be monitoring your teams from the tower. Dismissed. And Morgan, good luck.
I answered faintly as I sat there bewildered. It was at once overwhelming and anticlimactic.
I guess that's that. Don't worry. Maggie said he's sending you out for something easy. You'll be fine. I concur. If it's merely retrieval from an already contained situation, you have nothing to worry about.
Do I look worried?
Just a little. You look bloody terrified. It'll be fine, Morgan. Caleb will take good care of you. He better. I don't need you to tell me that.
Come on, everyone. If you keep treating her like she's fragile, she's going to start believing it. Morgan, it's true you lack training, but you are a queen rank. Don't forget that either.
Do you think something like that matters, Odette?
I think the 4 of you have developed a tendency to baby her, and it's important for her to maintain some perspective. I believe I said you all to leave immediately.
I let out a breath. He's right. I appreciate all the concern, but I'll be fine. After the meeting, Caleb gave me a gruff command to get into uniform. He said he'd be at my room in 20 minutes to get me. With all the prior warning I had, I wasn't too shocked at being deployed. We all knew that if the relic situation continued, I'd be sent out. That didn't do much to stop my heart from trying to leap out of my chest at the very thought of going out in any sort of official capacity. But it had to happen sometime, didn't it? And everything I'd heard so far indicated the council wouldn't hide me away and let me ease into things. As I pulled my hair up into a ponytail to keep it out of my face, I looked over myself in the mirror. My first time wearing the uniform I'd been issued when I first arrived. Well, this is it, isn't it? I'm officially screwed. I let out a dry chuckle as the door chimed. Right on time. I went to let him in, picking up the jacket on the way to the door. He didn't look happy. Well, I was gonna say, I don't know if now is the time for jokes, but always affectionate. Oh, you waited for me to answer this time instead of breaking in. What a surprise. Was my new password that good? If the glib greeting annoyed him, he didn't show it.
There isn't time for me to break in, or I would have. Just to prove I can.
He looked me over, eyes traveling up and down my form. I couldn't tell if it was approving or judging.
It doesn't look half bad on you.
Well, thank you. Thanks, I think.
I expected you to be nervous.
Oh, I am. But I'm also used to dealing with things that make me nervous, so I'm just trying to focus on what needs to be done.
Listen, I don't expect anything bad to happen. Was there time to look over the mission briefing?
Just a quick glance.
It really is a simple assignment. You and I will oversee the cleanup of an incident that happened early this morning. Culprit is nowhere to be seen. Relic has already been recovered. We're to retrieve it and bring it back to the tower. It's not like it will be anything you're not capable of.
That's good to know.
I'm the team lead, so all you need to do is whatever I tell you.
Somehow that annoys me.
Ranks aside, I still have seniority.
There is nothing that could inspire me to work hard as much as the thought of getting to eventually boss you around.
Keep dreaming. Doesn't matter how hard you work. I'll always have seniority.
I don't think that's fair. We started out in my room and down the hall, but Caleb grabbed my arm, looking down at me seriously.
I'm glad to see you in good spirits, but listen. Just don't do anything stupid out there this time.
I'll curve my knee to poke things with a stick, save people, or throw myself into harm's way.
Especially the last one. Please.
Aw, poor Caleb. He's like, I can't deal with it. And so I left for my first assignment out in the field, a bundle of 1,000 emotions. Fear, apprehension, and a surprising drop of excitement lurking under everything else. And a strange sense of relief that it was Caleb who was with me. He might be babying me, as Odette called it, but maybe it wasn't bad being babied on my first real assignment. There would be plenty of time to spread my wings later on. I didn't mind a little metaphoric hand-holding for the time being. So for now, I'd stick close and do what he said. And hope it turned out to be as easy as they said. I had never been to this part of the Day territories. There wasn't much to see through the tubes. Most of the way, it was fully enclosed. And through the rest, there was just endless dunes. The Trinity Desert. I'd seen it before. A vast wasteland of sand and sun. It occurred to me that the last time I'd been in a car with Caleb was the day he and Ari had arrested me. Despite everything, thinking back to that was almost funny. So much panicked shouting. I wonder how much of that could have been solved by one of them saying they were with Endgame. I could never have imagined we'd be going on an assignment together a month and a half later. Asteri is so different from any dome I've been to before.
A lot of the more isolated cities are unique. I'm sure you'll learn that on your own without me telling you.
I suppose so. Agents must do a lot of traveling.
Not all of them, but the Guard, yes.
Have you been to Asteri before?
A few times.
What's it like? I know it's a conglomerate of 7 domes?
9. 2 are tiny and largely uninhabited.
Ah, I see. It's also agricultural, from what I understand, but that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Probably because they stay out of global politics and maintain a neutral stance on just about everything. And they don't deal much with the Triad. Their energy needs are low, and even with a single solar array of their own, they're self-sufficient.
If they're an agricultural state, the bioflora must mean their energy needs are low.
Oh? Are bioregenerative life support systems something else you studied? Or is it something you learned from your father?
I think we did this before on Cases Root. Yeah, a bliss. Or bless. Mostly from my father, yes. That's the sort of planning he does.
Well, you're not wrong. Their energy needs for most life support and environmental functions are lower than normal because of the self-sustained ecosystem. So they get by on their own. Because it's isolated, people who come here usually do it because they want to be left alone. And it's pretty peaceful. There's a stable trade agreement with Delphine and 2 other city-states on the night side. And because of their proximity to the Triad's northern solar arrays, There's an agreement in place with them as well.
Agricultural trade, I take it?
It's about the only thing they have to offer. And the night side is the perfect place to offload their surplus supplies. Though they allegedly trade with the Nomos, too.
The Nomos? I thought no one traded with them.
Not quite true. Some more isolated cities like this one do. We're close enough to the waste, it makes sense for the Nomos to pop by every so often.
That's so fascinating. I never imagined a place like this existed.
Easy to get distracted by all the big cities on the day side, isn't it?
That could be it. I think it's more that New Albion forces you to focus on the path ahead so much that it's difficult to see anything else. Everyone is so driven to constantly prove your worth. Everything else fades to the edges.
Seems like it would be easy to lose yourself in all that.
The more time I spend out of that system, the more I realize that. So, where are we heading within Asteri?
We'll be passing through Center City and into one of the tertiary domes that's uninhabited. May surprise you to learn, they're not actually uninhabited.
Surprise, surprise.
Aside from the central dome, there aren't any major cities in the conglomerate. The secondary domes are all small settlements with large expanses of agricultural development. The tertiary domes... There are remnants of cities and towns, but the communities are disorganized and there's little oversight in them. Remember when I said people come here to be forgotten? The tertiary domes are the perfect place for it. The city governance has neither the money, staff, nor will to maintain and govern these areas. But mostly, it's unnecessary. A lot of the citizens out here are refugees just trying to live.
But?
Anywhere there isn't close governance becomes a haven for illicit affairs. Asteri itself is peaceful, but that doesn't mean it's not a good place to smuggle in just about anything from Delphine. Especially with the trade agreement. As long as they're smart about it, they don't get caught because the government here doesn't care unless they cause problems. It's a waypoint. A place where goods can pass through before being distributed to other locations.
If you know Asteri has that function, why doesn't Endgame keep a close watch on it?
We do, Morgan. There are multiple agents stationed here full-time, all undercover. Just... watching.
My stomach sank. Were any of them involved in this incident we're checking out? He was silent, but that was enough of an answer, wasn't it? Damn.